St. Charles Patriot Radio with Missouri State Representative Richard West and former Francis Howell School Board member Jane Puszkar.
Welcome, St. Charles Patriot Radio with me, Jane Puszkar, and Richard West. Richard and I try very hard to make our topics that we discuss very relevant and educational for you. So to achieve that goal today, we have with us Kate Sickles. And she also goes around the state doing education on amendments. She volunteers and educates, and right now educates on Amendments 3 and Amendments 4. So thank you for joining us today, Kate. We're really looking forward to what you have to say.
Thanks for having me.
So it's a pleasure having you in. This is one of my topics that I've been dealing with since I started the legislature in 2020. And Amendment 4 deals with our state's constitution. And currently, to amend our state's constitution, it just takes 50 plus 1 of the vote of the state. And, a lot of that comes from the eastern part, which is St. Louis City, and the western part, which we would consider Kansas City. And then Springfield has a big say-so as well.
Yeah, that's done Boonville, too.
Yeah. Well, you are correct. Mm-hmm. And those 4 heavily populated areas tend to rule the rest of the state on initiative petitions. That's what it's called, is initiative petitions, and big money coming in from outside of not only our state, but outside of the U.S. to change our laws by putting them into our state's constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah. So this is all about the way we amend our Constitution. So there's 3 ways we can amend our Constitution. One is through a statewide convention, which we won't even talk about because it's so rare. The other one is through the legislature, which you're a part of. And I think hopefully most people know that when you bring forth a possible amendment, you have vetting on both sides, the House and the Senate, where people can where there's hearings and people can have a say in what's going on and try to tell you what's happening. It has to pass both sections of the House and Senate before it can get to the ballot. So it's very well vetted.
Yeah. But
the third way is the citizen initiative petition. This is a problem right now because what they can do is anyone can just pick up a piece of paper and a pen and write down whatever they want. They just get it approved by the Secretary of State, and then they run around the state. We've all seen people at the grocery store where they're trying to get signatures from us. They lie to you about what's on it. They don't have all the information they're supposed to have, which is the ballot, not just the ballot summary, but also the entire amendment when you go to sign it. And then they can go and get it on the ballot if they get enough signatures. And then it's 50% plus 1, but nobody's vetted it. No lawyers have written it or looked at it. And now we're lied to, and millions and millions of dollars. We know in 2024, $32 million came in to pass Amendment 3 back then.
So Jane, I have a question for you.
Sure.
If you came up to me in the grocery store, or I'm standing outside the grocery store, and I hand you a 40-page document on passing marijuana, legalizing marijuana in this state, are you going to read all 40 of those? Well, I mean, I'm asking the wrong person, but do you think people are going to read 40 pages of that before they sign?
Absolutely
No, all they
not.
hear is, do you want to legalize marijuana?
Right. And my motto is decline to sign. I'll go home and check it out and make sure that I have all the information I need to make a decision. But other than that, if I don't know about it, I'm not signing anything.
So I'm going to say, short of the last Amendment 3 that we have, marijuana was a great example of how things were done wrong. A lot of people in the state were for legalizing marijuana, but I'm sure they weren't for legalizing it in the way that it was done through the initiative petition process. And the way that happened is a lot of outside money just came into the state and flooded the state. The signatures that were received, by people standing out at the grocery stores and things like that, were a lot of it was contested. They had trouble verifying a lot of those. Just so the audience knows that hey, if you get 500,000 signatures out of the state, those all have to be verified. Our Secretary of State has to then hire people. Well, they have people on staff, but they then have to pay to have all those signatures verified, and before it can even go to the ballot. So it's an expensive process for the state. A lot of outside money comes in to push those initiatives. And then it goes in front of the people, and all the people really see or hear is, should we legalize marijuana?
And it was a sharp leap from recreational marijuana being approved. As a retired healthcare professional, I was for that. There's a lot of people that benefit medicinally from marijuana, but that's under a doctor's care and a doctor prescription. And I was all for that. So,
and that's where it went from medical marijuana to recreational.
Right.
Went from, I think it was around 17 pages to 40 pages when we added that. Nobody knew what was in it. The kickbacks for all the marijuana industry is unbelievable in it. But the biggest issue, too, is that citizen initiative petition is direct democracy, and we are not a direct democracy. We are a representative republic, so it should be a representation of our whole state of what we want to get into our Constitution. And it should be hard. This is our founding documents of our state. The marijuana, the 40 pages of marijuana, has more words in it than the entire U.S. Constitution. And that's just on marijuana in our Constitution. That is insane.
That is insane.
So when the marijuana initiative came out, I was really well versed on this. And so currently how many pages do you think our Missouri state constitution is?
I was going to look that up before I came and I didn't. But the marijuana is probably at least a fifth or a sixth of the whole constitution.
Yeah.
It's
so
pretty big.
Currently our Missouri constitution is 222 pages. It's been amended 13 times. Now, this is our Constitution, not our laws. This is our Constitution. Has been amended 13 times in the last 10 years. So put that in relevance to our U.S. Constitution, which is roughly, let me look at my notes here.
I think it's 27 amendments over 250 years.
So I was going to look at how many pages, but our U.S. Constitution is like less than 40 pages, number one. Number two, the last amendment occurred in 1992, and that amendment took 200 years to get passed. 200 years for that amendment to get passed. And it dealt with Congress and their pay and things like that. But yeah, I mean, when you put all that into perspective, our state's constitution should be our holy grail, should, outline the way we want to do things. But to change, our laws, the way we operate every day, those things are an ever working document and things like that. That should be more on the legislative side of things or more on the statute side of things where those things occur instead of putting them into our Constitution.
Yeah. In the last 23 years, we have gotten sports betting, bingo, abortion, marijuana. I mean, the list just goes on. Gambling. So all of that should have been statute, not constitutional. It should have been gone through. It can go through a citizen initiative process, but it should have gone through on the statutory side. But this is the way that the big money gets around our legislators.
Yes.
Because we have a red state. So how do you get something done in our red state is you pay to put something into our Constitution, which means that it's harder to get out because the legislature has no say. Whereas if they put something in statute, you guys can come back and say, hey, let's tweak that, which you did with Prop 8 last year.
Let's just look at, we know legislation has errors. It goes into law. There's a lot to do when a piece of legislation is created. Or say something will change in a matter of years. The only way to change any of that legislation or any of the Constitution is through another constitutional vote of the people. And people get scared that those changes will just nullify it altogether, so people don't vote on it. Those changes never get made. Taxation is a big issue with marijuana on this. The marijuana industry gets a lot of money out of this. They get a lot of benefits out of this. And the only way we could change that is through another vote to the people.
I'm being conspicuously quiet over here because I am appalled at how our Constitution is for sale. If it took $32 million to change our Constitution one time, that doesn't count all the other times that it's been changed. That's not representative of the people. We are not being a republic here. We are being a democracy. And that is exactly what our forefathers voted against or guarded against, because that's where they came from. And it doesn't work all the time.
Right. You mentioned the U.S. Constitution. It takes 2/3 majority on each side of the House and Senate, and then 3/4 majority of all the states to ratify something. This is 50% plus one across the whole state. That is crazy.
It is.
I don't think there's too many other states like this, are there?
So I had the numbers. I set them on the floor. Don't take me for,
close counts.
But there's roughly 14 other states that have it the way that we do. There's, I think, 30 other states that have some form, one or the other. Some states don't even allow their constitution to be changed by a vote of the people. It has to be done through the legislature. I want to back up because something.
Now, those 14? I have a question though. Are those 14 all 50% plus one?
No.
Yeah.
Only. I think
like 11.
I think only 14 are.
Okay.
Like 50 plus one, and some of them. So there's different variations of that, but the last time I checked, I think it's like 14. It might be 11, but those numbers are kind of not in my head right now. But 14 rings out. But yeah, so it's 50.
But if
plus
you
one.
look back at those past several years, those are the states that they're going at.
I heard the other night that Colorado is severely being changed. That state is being changed because it used to be a fairly red state, and they used to have fairly conservative ideas and ideologies, and it's being changed by big money coming in. Marijuana was one of those things, taxation, and they have Tabor, which is a taxpayer's bill of rights, and that's the only thing right now protecting the citizens of Colorado from the excessively high taxation, but they try every year. While we're on this topic, I want to talk a little bit about our Secretary of State, because he kind of deals with all of these issues. They go to his office. If the criteria is met, he doesn't get to decide. He has to, by law, put them in certain areas. But if you go out to our Secretary of State's office, there is a list there of all the initiative petition processes. And I tell people all the time, go out and look, because they're telling you, they are forecasting what they want to do. They want to take away your guns. They want to take away right to work. They want to increase taxes. And they're all out there. They run these things every year. They're telling you, they're broadcasting to you what they want to do in the future, because they run it through trial tests. They try to get signatures. And as soon as they get the signatures, it's pretty much a done deal.
Right. I think in the past 23 years, Byron and I did some research on this. I think they tried 180 times to change our Constitution, but only 23 made it actually to the ballot. But of those, 14 passed. You know how many times the conservatives have gotten something in the last 23 years on the ballot?
I'm afraid to ask.
Zero.
That's what I thought.
This is the way the left is taking over our state.
Well, they can't win by elections.
Correct.
Okay, because their ideologies are just so far out there. So then they come in and they take hold of our state's constitution, and they're governing in that way. They're making...
And probably one of the biggest things you'll see on some of those, and the most dangerous that people don't realize, is they're trying to take away the legislature's ability to legislate. These are our representatives, and they are trying to say you cannot legislate when it comes to what we're trying to put on the ballot. That's also crazy.
And I have to stress to the people listening that there are two forms of changing laws in the state of Missouri. One would be changing our constitution, which is what we're talking about. And the other one is a process where the voters or the people of the state can still file a petition to change the statutes in the state. And we are not saying you shouldn't have that access,
Correct. Amendment 4 that we're going to be talking about does not affect the statutory citizen initiative petition process.
Yeah, and we're not advocating in any way that we should change that. Jen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, with just a little bit less than a minute left, I have a question for the two of you to ponder. How are we going to fix this? Or can we fix this?
We can.
We can? Yeah. Okay, that gives me hope. That gives me a lot of hope.
As long as voters will get out to vote, we can.
Well, let's talk about how we're going to get the voters out to vote, because that was an issue in April, because not a whole lot of voters came out, 21%, which is not representative of the full majority of the people. It's even, not even a quarter of the people. It's ridiculous. So it's really hard. But I think maybe we have a better chance at the end of in November.
So Kate, you guys stick around with us, and we can have another segment on and continue this discussion.
St. Charles Patriot Radio with Missouri State Representative Richard West and former Francis Howell School Board member Jane Puszkar.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us on this beautiful Sunday. Kate, what I'd like for you to do is tell us everything that you know about Amendment 4 that we need to know so that we're informed when we get out to vote.
So Amendment 4 will be on the ballot in August, and we absolutely need this to pass. What it will do, first of all, like we said before, it only applies to constitutional amendments brought by the citizens' initiative petition process. So the first thing it does is bans foreign funding. We know that over $10 million was spent in 2024 to try to pass certain different amendments that went against our values in Missouri.
That kind of fixes the big part of the problem, doesn't it?
Well, it's not the biggest part because you can still throughout the country give to any campaign in the country. But it's probably a third of what was spent, at least against Amendment 3. So we need to stop that whole process. It actually is a law right now, but this would elevate it to the constitutional level, which is what we need. The second thing it does is it requires public hearings. So there is no vetting right now in any citizen initiative petition. They come, like I said before, they just get your signature, they lie about what's on it, they give you ads that lies about what's on it, and nobody is even able to ask any questions of anybody that actually put it forward. So now this is going to require public hearings, which I think is really a great thing. The other thing is it criminalizes signature fraud. Let me give you an example. There's a petition out that was turned in the Secretary of State last month where I know people who said they saw a woman come up to somebody who was gathering signatures and said, I just signed it down the street. Can I sign again? That's illegal.
Yes,
that is illegal. It's also illegal, like you said, not to have the full ballot language with you when you go to get the signatures. Also, what people don't realize is if it says St. Louis County on the top and you're from St. Charles County, you can't sign that. You have to be on a separate one. So it criminalizes all the signature fraud that's happening with this as well. And it requires, this is kind of an interesting one, requires the entire ballot or the entire amendment to be available to voters when they go to vote. Like you said, 33 pages was just the recreational marijuana. So can you imagine if first of all, if they had to print that many for every single voter, the cost of that, but also if somebody got handed that, you might think twice about voting for whatever this is, because that's ridiculous.
It's a good thing some of the precincts are in the library, right?
Yeah, really. And then the biggest one, of course, is actually reforming the way we approve it. Right now, it's 50% plus one across the whole state. So Kansas City, Columbia, and St. Louis are ruling our state right now. This Amendment 4 says that it's going to be, that it will require a majority in each of the 8 congressional districts. So now, for instance, with marijuana, with abortion, with some other ones, the entire bottom of the state, which is, I think, 7 and 8, would not have passed those. Most of the 6 is, with the new redistricting, I'm not sure how Kansas City is going to affect 6, but it's going to take an actual broad agreement across the state to get our Constitution amendment, which it should be.
A true representation.
Yes, a true representation. That's right.
Yeah. So instead of 50 plus 1 for the whole state, to make it simple, it's 50 plus 1 in each of the congressional districts.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
And I think that's a better representation of our state. Our state is hugely diversified. Okay. You've got high populations on east and west, but you have a lot of rural, you have a lot of, just different populations. And if each one of those populations doesn't have an equal say or an equal representation, they sometimes feel jilted is a good word.
Disenfranchised.
Disenfranchised is a better word.
And it's mob rule.
Yeah,
it is mob rule.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is.
Let's look at an issue that is on almost every year. I go through and I look at the things that are presented to the Secretary of State's office, and I urge you to do it because there's like 5 or 6 out there right now about gun control. Are you going to let St. Louis City and Kansas City take away your Second Amendment rights for the rest of the state because they vote to do it, because they have issues of not enforcing their laws and dealing with their criminals? So are we going to let them take away our Second Amendment rights?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's just one of the things that's down the pike of what's coming.
And if you look at a map of what happened, like for Amendment 3 or for the marijuana or for a lot of these, 8 out of 114 counties in the state of Missouri gave us children being allowed to have transgender surgeries into our Constitution. 8 out of 114 counties.
Wow.
That is crazy. And when you talk about getting out to vote, 12% of the Missouri population did that. Got transgender for children without parents' consent or knowledge into our Constitution. We have got to get people out, and they need to understand how important this is to protect our Constitution.
I think history is going to show that as one of the most barbaric actions that we could have committed during this time.
We went from one of the most restricted states to one of the most liberal states as far as abortion and
we're the most pro-death, pro-abortion, mutilating of children in the world right now.
So this is a big deal. Sorry, Jane, didn't mean to cut you off. This is just a really big deal. I think people really should pay attention to it. Jane, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Kate, in some of the time that we have left, can you tell us how we can fix this? What are your recommendations for, number one, getting A4 on the or getting it passed, and the rest of it is how do we get the voters out? Do you have any ideas on anything to do with that?
So right now, education is key. I have been for the last 7 months running around the state trying to educate people on Amendment 3, and now I've added Amendment 4 to that because a lot of people have heard about Amendment 3, but nobody has heard about Amendment 4. It's crazy. So we have to get out there and educate the public on this. It's key that they understand what this is, because you do have some small faction that says, well, this is taking away the citizens' vote, the citizens' voice. Right. Well, the reality is the citizens still have a voice through the statutory process, which is where all of these belong. Right. They should not get a voice to amend our Constitution in a 50% plus one manner.
Speaking of education, are there any more like you? Can we clone you?
What we need to do is probably get some videos out too, which we're working on. I know Amy DeClue just did one about Amendment 4, and Byron's out there doing that as well. And he's also trying to educate now on 5 as well, which most people don't understand what it really is. So there's a lot going on right now in this, just in August.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of time.
Are big on that.
I'm just going to say this. Another good source is to reach out to your representatives, your senators and your state representatives. They're very well versed on this issue. They'll tell you the facts. I mean, you could probably guess which way I am on it, but I don't need to lie to you about the fact that we have to stress again that this is not taking away the people's choice. Now, not only do you have the process to go through and change statutes, but you also have the process of electing people,
correct,
that can change your laws and do things like that. So you've actually got 2 ways of doing it. Elect representatives who identify with your ideologies, or you could start your own process to try to change our statutes in the state of Missouri.
And that's why August is so important, because, and some people will argue this fact, but the primaries are in August. And the thing is that a lot of times in the state of Missouri and other states, if you win the primary, you're pretty much almost there. If people go out and vote, you're there. So that's why we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can get Amendment 4 passed, and we can get the right people to win the primary. But do you have other ideas?
Well, freedomprincipalmo.org also has a lot of information about 3, 4, and 5 on it. I believe 5 is more coming, but we've got fact sheets, we have palm cards, we are trying to get signs out. I know we're going to have some Vote Yes on 4 signs available next week. So we just have to get that out. And if you want to volunteer to go door to door to talk to people about this, you can also go on freedomprincipalmo.org and you can sign up to help there, because that's what it's going to take right now. We need an army of people out there telling people what it really is.
If you are listening and you want, I'm going to say, an unbiased opinion on this, okay? Because some would say maybe we're biased on this issue. go out to your Secretary of State's office website. It's run by your tax dollars, and it will have the ballot language. It will have it broken down to exactly what this does. And if you don't understand that, that's understandable. But I mean, that's like exactly the way it is. So, I think what we're saying here is the truth. I don't think we've tried to cover up anything. But if you just don't trust us, go out to your Secretary of State's website. I mean, it breaks it down.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is the ballot summaries. Those are not always accurate.
That is true.
This one in particular, it's not that it's not accurate, but it's incomplete. It only talks about the congressional districts broad-based across the state and about the fact that you would have to have the public hearings. It doesn't mention the foreign funding. It doesn't mention the criminalization of signature frauds. And it doesn't mention, well, actually, I think it mentions the full text, but it doesn't say that we're going to have public hearings. I think that's the way it was. It's very nebulous. You can hardly, it doesn't really say anything. It's actually like, what is this when you read that? So you really have to get somebody who knows what they're talking about to help you explain what's really going to be on it.
But that legislation should be included. The actual legislation proposed should be on the Secretary of State's website.
Correct.
I'm not mistaken. So you can, if you're a legal mind or you're, you can comprehend a lot.
Yeah. And do you remember the number that it was through the legislature? Okay.
Yeah.
I should have.
But you should be able to go there.
Yeah.
I should know it too.
Right.
But you should be able to go there and I mean, they'll have everything listed out. The Secretary of State's website is really a great website. I mean, it's a lot of information there. And you can, all the things we've talked about today, you can find it all right there. And I'm not stumping for the Secretary of State. I'm just saying, if you want the black and white and the breakdown of it without a biased opinion, it's all right there.
Kate, I'm going to put you on the spot here. The one thing that the left is really good at is one-liners, just summarizing everything that they want done. So if you could, out of the 4 points that you mentioned that are in Amendment 4, the most, I think you said 4, could you tell us what one or two would be the most important things to get across to the voters? Not that they're not all important, but in the interest of compacting the message, which has to be clear, concise, and brief, unfortunately.
We have to start first by just saying we need to protect our Constitution, our founding documents. Then from there, I know that the polling is very high on stopping foreign funding. People need to know that that's there because it's not going to be on the ballot language. And then we should have broad-based consensus throughout the state in order to get something put into our Constitution. And this fixes that problem. Sometimes that's hard for people to understand, but like I said, I just kind of use my hands. We have 50% plus one, or we have 50% plus one in each of the districts.
And there, my friends, is the winning message. So we're trying to make it easy for you.
The foreign funding is a huge issue.
Yes, it is.
Most folks really don't have an understanding of how much outside money, not just from the state, but from foreign funding from outside of our country comes in to change our laws and our constitutions. And it's not just the state. I mean, they put a lot of money in the U.S., in the U.S. Legislature as well to try to change these things.
Yes. And when you force those entities to go all across all 8 districts instead of focusing on just Kansas City and St. Louis, they're going to back off of trying to come into our state and fix and destroy our Constitution.
In the 40 seconds or so that we have left, tell us how we can reach you. Again, it's not hard. It's not bad to repeat these things. Yes. Where they can reach you and what websites and everything else that's available.
So freedomprincipalmo.org. When you get on there, there's ways to volunteer. There's ways to request a presentation. We need to get into all kinds of places. That includes churches even. People think this is not a moral issue. Everything that goes into our Constitution is moral. It's either moral or amoral. And we want to make sure that good gets into our Constitution, that bad gets ripped out. So I would go to freedomprincipalmo.org to get more information, to volunteer, and to request a presentation on those.
Thank you so much for your time today, Kate. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for educating us on everything for Amendment 4. We look forward to seeing you again before the election.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Kate.
St. Charles Patriot Radio with Missouri State Representative Richard West and former Francis Howell School Board member Jane Puszkar.
Welcome back to St. Charles Patriot Radio on this gorgeous Sunday afternoon. I have with me today Mr. Bob Eno. He's not only a friend, but we serve together on the St. Charles Central Committee, and I think Bob is going to be here today to talk to us about the committee and what it does, how it functions, how it's formed, and all those good things. Bob, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much, Richard. I really appreciate it. And Jane Puszkar, welcome.
Thank you for coming.
This is, I guess, your first show or the second show?
Second maiden voyage.
Well, we enjoy hearing you. I've known you for many years. We go to church together. I followed you on the St. Charles Francis Howell School Board, excuse me. And I know that you did a great job there,
thank
and you should have won.
Yeah.
We supported you. My wife and I, Sandy, supported you.
I always appreciate your support, Bob. It's very important to me.
Well, the committee supported you as well. We donated to your campaign. We endorsed you. We endorsed several other people as well. Unfortunately, it didn't go as planned by the committee, which I understand I'm here today to talk about the committee, which most people don't know anything about.
That's true. We don't. So educate us, please.
Educate you? Okay. The committee is made up of 14 townships, man and woman from each township, committee man, committee woman, that is mandated by the Missouri state law. And we meet once a month, and our meetings are the second Thursday of each month. Right now, we meet at the Old Hickory Golf Club. It's open to the public. We meet at 7 o'clock. Doors open around 6:30, 6:15. And you're always welcome to come in and just hear what we do. Our main responsibility is to support and find people that are that want to be involved in Republican politics. That's a little easier said than done. The townships are a local group of Republicans that are able to find, support, seek out donations, find, I'm at a loss here.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So the people that are elected, are they elected by the entire county or just that individual township that they reside in?
They are elected by the individual township. Thanks for that question. And the townships are broken up into precincts and then voting areas, and that's how it becomes very local, very granular as far as the parties go. The Democratic Party in St. Charles County has their own committee. The Libertarians, I understand, have their own committee as well. And the Republican committee right now is probably the most popular. There's a 2-year term. We are elected. The election is up this August in 2026. Myself, I came onto the committee in 2022. I became the chairman in 2023. And what we do is basically support and recruit people for the Republican Party.
Yeah, that sounds like a challenge to me. Well, no, I mean, to get good people everywhere.
Well, I was going to say any organization.
It's nothing against the Republicans. I'm sorry if that came across that way, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was it's hard to get people to run for office because of the fact that there's a lot of vitriol, a lot of hatred. There's a lot of support too, but a lot of times it's just a thankless job.
Well, as a society, we are now a lot more busy than we used to be. I mean, now they want every second of your day till you go to bed to be occupied with something, kids sports or other organizations and things like that. So, this is, it's a challenge sometimes, Bob. I know we often struggle with, open seats. People, have to leave for one reason or another. They may move out of the district, for whatever. And then we have seats that are open that are hard to fill sometimes. It's just, people are busy.
That is true. And if anyone is interested in being on this committee or being involved in the committee, they can go to St. Charles County GOP or St. Charles County Facebook page and leave me a note. Let me know what you think. We do have openings right now. With the election coming up in August, we have some seats that no one even filed for. So we will be recruiting people to come onto the committee. As I said, we meet once a month. There are more things to do. We raise money. We have a mantra: raise as much money as you can and give it all away to candidates.
How do you raise that money?
Well, in different things. Our biggest was our Lincoln Trump dinner, which we have in March, typically the third Friday of each of March. We do that every year. We have guest speakers. This time we had Bob Eno was there. All the candidates for our St. Charles County Executive were there. It's our biggest fundraiser. We also do an Oktoberfest. We have a booth down there. Richard's been there. I think you were there as well. That just a meet and greet for people to come by and say hello. Other legislators for the St. Charles County were there as well. Colin Wellenkamp was there. Scott Miller was there. Tony Lavasco was there. He's running for a seat in St. Charles. And so he was there. Tricia Burns was there. So it's quite an assembly of different people that come by, stop by, stick around. The other thing is the rock and roll bingo, which I thought was a huge hit. Richard and his wife, Lori serves on the committee as well, did a fantastic job of organizing and keeping us on track. It was an opportunity to raise money, to bring up just a little bit different venue for raising money, which I notice now that a lot of the candidates have copied our
That's a popular theme.
Yes, it is. It's very popular, and we love doing it. I think trivia nights are good. We've done a couple of trivia nights over the years. And then we give the money away, and that's the thing. We give the money to school boards. We give the money to local politicians that are in the legislature, or county councils, city councils. Those partisan races are nonpartisan races, people that declare that they are Republican and support the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. We have a very varied way of vetting some of these people. In other words, looking at them, make sure they are Republicans, better understanding how they operate on their own personal level, and just making sure that they are Republican and going to serve as a Republican.
I know that you have people come before your group to speak and tell everybody what their beliefs are. Do you believe that's a really good way to find out whether or not somebody is truly Republican or maybe being a charlatan? I don't know. I've heard of that happening once in a while.
That does happen. As a matter of fact, it happened to my good friend here, Richard West. When he first ran, somebody came in and said that they were a Republican and was going to run against Richard in the primary. And our committee did some due diligence and a lot of checking. MEC reports is probably the best way to look. And lo and behold, we found that he was a Democrat the day before he signed up to be a Republican. And so the committee stepped up and said, we are not going to support you. We are going to support Richard West. And that was an endorsement.
And here he is.
And here he is today. Yeah. He's still standing and still fighting for us. You know,
I try not to talk too much, just to let you explain, but being on the committee, it's not all stodgy stuff. I mean, we have a lot of fun when we are out at an event and we set up a table and we're out greeting the public and you just have conversations with people. It's amazing the things you hear, the things you learn. You actually put yourself in touch with the people. And that's why I try to show up as often as I can, because you actually hear from the people face to face on what their concerns are, what they're happy with, what they're not happy with. And I think the committee gets a really good feel of that. And then when the committee sits down and they do ask questions of candidates that come forward, they can take that knowledge of what they've heard that the people in St. Charles County want, that they can actually say, hey, what's your stance on this issue? What's your stance on that issue? And it helps them to better educate themselves on the committee and what we stand.
And that's a great point, Richard. And one of my favorite things to do was also door knocking. That's also how you get in touch, and you have a lot of really great conversations with people. Some crazy, not so good conversations, but most of them were really good and supportive.
Can't
and really
imagine that.
Yeah, it happens, Bob. It really does.
Well, I mean, we are. So let's touch on this space. We are a big county.
Yeah, we are.
We are a very diverse county, and I just have to say this because it's who we are in St. Charles County. Okay, we have. As a Republican Party, we have a very diverse party as well. And we have a party platform. And I think as long as you stick to the party platform, you're good. It's when you start going outside of that platform, and it's not hard to find. I think, is a platform on our webpage?
Platform, the link is on our website, and believe it's on our Facebook page as well. So,
if you're operating within the confines of the platform, I think you're accepted in the Republican Party in St. Charles County. And like I said, we're a very diverse county, so we don't want to turn anybody away or but come and have a conversation with us. I mean, it's a great group of people. I mean, and we represent, of course, from the northern part of the county all the way down to the southern part of the county. So again, you have diverse representation there as well.
That's important.
Very diverse. And one thing we are doing with that diversity is Amendment 3, Amendment 4, and Amendment 5 signs will be spread across, and most of the committee is just keeping them in their garage or their deck or their patio or whatever to hand out so that people don't have to drive too far. And our central location will be none other than Richard and Lawyer West facility out in Lake St. Louis. So everyone on the committee is pitching in. We all support Amendment 3, we support Amendment 4, and we support Amendment 5. And one of the issues I said a few minutes ago, that means that we are supporting our legislators, especially St. Charles County legislators, the Republicans. We have a Republican mandate or mandatory majority, and that majority is it works hard and works every day with promoting the Republican platform and taking care of the voters and taking care of the little people, is the way I like to say it. And that is part of St. Charles County, the diversity there.
Is there any information that the committee gets out there about what they do and how they exist? And what I mean by that is, before I got involved in any sort of politics, or I always voted, but sometimes I hate to admit, I just didn't. I had to leave it blank because I didn't know what or who I was voting for. So I think the Republican Central Committee is central to a lot of things that are Republican in St. Charles County. Do you have a way of getting out there and promoting yourselves to let people know who you are, what you are, how, besides coming on St. Charles Patriot Radio?
Good question. And the best way is if you look up if you did a Google search, something as simple as that, St. Charles County GOP or St. Charles County Republican Party or St. Charles County Republicans, it'll bring you to our website and our Facebook page. And there you can find out additional information. You mentioned something about people that are running on the Republican platform. That can be a little bit difficult depending on the number of people, Republicans in a primary, that are running against one another. Our committee tries to stay out of that. As individuals on the committee, they all have people that they are supporting. But as a committee, we do not necessarily endorse one Republican against another Republican unless we run into the situation we did with Richard West. That was a little bit different. And quite frankly, that's not happened since. Yeah. And I don't think it's happened maybe once or twice in the past 25 years or so. So that is how we promote our candidates. Now, the other thing we do is on our website and I believe the Facebook, we'll have links on there about, for example, I put a post up for what's going on for events for Republican candidates that are having fundraisers or events this month. And there's a link on there. You can go and look at that candidate. You can look at that event, or you can just do some research on the candidate just by simply going to that link. It all comes back, though, to the voter. The voter has to do some due diligence. With the internet that's available today, social media, and personally, I find it hard to believe that people don't know who they're voting for and why they're voting. You know, there's so much information out there right now on Amendment 3 and all the different candidates. St. Charles County Executive, we just had a debate on Tuesday evening, and
on this
success.
Radio station.
Yes.
On this radio
Thank you, News
station.
Talk.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, you know, all the candidates just really, really complimented this radio station and how organized it was and how well it was run. One of the candidates ran for governor. He was all over the state in different debates, and he said this was by far the best that he's been to. So,
yeah, they did a really great job. I was there, and I was really happy with the turnout. You could always hope for more, but at the same time, I thought it was a great turnout and a lot of discussion and committed people in St. Charles County.
The auditorium was pretty much full on the bottom part there. So,
it was.
Yes, it was.
I was there as well.
And I think St. Charles got a great future with all three of those people. Whoever wins, each one of them brings something to the table. They have a style. They have a vision for St. Charles County into the future.
Well, Bob, I think it's people like yourself and us and the radio station that keep St. Charles a great place by continuing to require that not only our candidates, but our voters step to a higher level.
Exactly.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And
could not agree more.
I'll just say this, it's a completely voluntary position, and there's no compensation for it or anything like that. So it's not like we're taking a chunk out of people's money. It all goes towards good candidates.
Bob, we would love to thank you for coming in and talking to us today. I hope that everybody has found this very educational and informative. So thank you again, Bob.
Thank you so much for having me here.